And blessings, my beautiful souls. How are you today? So today I would like to recommend some books that will help you to really engage with your practice, that will give you some great little resources that will assist you in developing stronger, more engaging types of practices. I absolutely love to reach for books and use them as very specific resources. So I've got some really great specific recommendations for you for a really big, beautiful, kind of holistic type of practice. I have herbs here, I have ancestral practice here, I have flower medicine, I have Sigil Witchery, I have all sorts of things to recommend to help you to refine your practice, to engage in different resources, and to explore and discover different modalities in a rather more personal, and I suppose some of these books are instructionals, so yes, instructional manners. So hopefully this video is going to help you to cement some new and solid practices, or to explore even deeper some of the practices that you are currently really well invested in and curious about, etc. So let's get stuck into it. I'm going to go inside, away from all the noisy crickets and birds and all of those types of beautiful summertime sounds, and we're going to have a look at some of these books. Okay, so in no particular order, I'm going to start off with The Art of Hoodoo Candle Magic in Rootwork Conjure and Spiritual Church Services by Catherine Ironwood and Michael Strabo. This is a very short, sweet, and yet detailed book on how to create effective candle magic within the Rootwork Conjure style of magic. Now, the reason why I quite like this book is because my practice in Brazil is very root work oriented. It is not the same as root work, but this is the closest book that I could find that mirrors the folk magical practices of Brazil, utilizing specific ingredients, the orixás, the energy, the ancestral work. And so there are a lot of crossovers and similarities. And so I have gravitated towards this book. However, this is not the only book that covers the concept of candle magic. I like the style of book, I like the information in here, but if you are not fond of this particular style, you can also opt for one of these. This is Practical Candle Burning Rituals and Advanced Candle Burning Magic, both by Raymond Buckland. These are old books, people, but they're still very, very popular, and people still love to work with and utilize the resources in these books. They're very instructional, they're old school instructional, and if you've been around the traps for a while, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So honorable mentions here, but this is the one that I would recommend the most. Short, sweet, very detailed, to the point, gives you a lot of instruction, gives you a lot to go on, and as such is a great resource. Okay, the next book that I'm going to recommend for you is Black Toad. This one's by Gemma Gary, and it focuses on West Country witchcraft and folk magic. Gemma Gary is a wealth of information when it comes to traditional witchcraft of the Cornish, Welsh, West Country variety. This book does not disappoint. It contains illustrations, it contains just a wonderful arrangement of information that really gives you a very clear picture of what it was like to be a West Country practitioner, and some of the remnants or leftover traditional practices that are still within use today. If you're a fan of traditional witchcraft, especially the Cornish West Country variety, then you are really going to love this book. It is short, it is sweet, it's available on Audible. My book club, my Magical Library book club on Patreon, just finished reading this as a witchcraft non-fiction buddy read, and we all really enjoyed it. I shouldn't generalize. I would say, actually no, I think we all really enjoyed it. I can generalize. So if you're interested in traditional witchcraft and you are not fearful of toads, because the black toad does contain toad magic in it, so if you're squeamish about that, probably not the one for you. Next we have the Herbery. Now, I banged on a bit about the Crystallary, and this is the companion book, Illustrated Herbery, very similar style to the Crystallary, and it's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. Now, I loved the Crystallary and I quite like the Herbery. However, I prefer my herbal books to look a little bit different, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But this is such a gorgeous, gorgeous book, and it is typical Maya Toll style. So it has the oracle cards in the background, and then it goes through the oracle cards there. But each herb is addressed in a really beautiful manner. So for instance, reishi, and we've got defying gravity, and then a little bit on reishi mushroom there, and then on the other page, write and burn, step into your superpower. We've got a few little prompts there. This is another workbook style, and I quite like that. I think that we need more workbooks as opposed to just flat out informational material, because there are a lot more solitary practitioners in the world these days, and people like to work at their own pace. So I think my atoll is actually filling a void quite nicely there. This is 36 Bewitching Botanicals, guidance and rituals obviously included as per her crystallary style. Very beautifully presented book, hardcover, and absolutely aesthetically pleasing, as I'm sure you can see for yourself. But I highly recommend the Herbery for a really pretty and yet quite informative book. It's probably not as dense as far as research and information goes to some of the other herb books that I'm about to show you, but as a starting off point for a beginner, or even for a seasoned practitioner that just wants to weave in a different element into their practice, this is a really great little resource. The next book that I'm going to recommend to you is Flowerpedia. This is by Sherilyn Darcy. So this one covers 1,000 flowers and their meanings. And this is not illustrated. There's no pictures, there's no reference material aside from the writing. So if that disappoints you, sorry about that. But the way that it is written is as such. So you have your ailment or your condition, whatever, and then you have the botanical that is associated to that particular thing. So pain, we have nettle. Pain, let it go of crocus. Paradise, birds of paradise, and it goes on and on like that. So this is great for if you're wanting to do flower divination, for instance, if you are wanting to send a bunch of flowers to another person and have inherent meaning in that. That's really, really beautiful. If you're wanting to do kind of what is it called, wild crafting, and doing a kind of nature spirit walk and stumbling across particular flowers, then you can take this as a little reference guide and figure out what the meanings are as you are moving through your spirit walk through nature. It's quite a fun book to utilize in companion to other activities, I suppose. So very straightforward, very simple, sweet, concise, to the point, very staccato style, which I quite enjoy as a reference book. So Flowerpedia, for those who really like flowers. So the next book that I am going to show you is Sigil Witchery. This is by Lara Tempest Zarcroft? Yeah, Lara Tempest Zarcroft. I don't know why I tripped up there, sorry about that. This is a very unusual, very beautiful, very artistic, very expressive sigil witchery book. So if you're looking for sigils in the sense of the Chaos Magician's sigils, Austen Osman Spare, that kind of thing, you're not going to find too much of that in here. What you are going to find is symbology, symbolism, and sigils through the creation of symbolism, of power and meaning. So we have an arrangement of shapes that are explained, specific types of doodles and patterns and things, and it is a workbook style, which I quite enjoy. And I happen to find this to be a really informative type of material for the making and creating of sigils. And as someone who likes to create, you know, power sigils and magical art and things of that nature, especially when I'm journaling, I think that this is a really beautiful book to put into practice, especially. So we have some sigils that she has personally created there. Transformation sigil, a sigil against bullying. She has explained the whys and the hows of the constructions of these sigils. Anti-anxiety sigil, a fertility sigil, and I think she has a really beautiful, expressive and artistic style. So her sigils end up looking absolutely gorgeous, unlike my sigils, which don't look anything like this. But hey, we've all got a skill set and we should celebrate that, shouldn't we? So if you're interested in expressive, artistic symbolism and sigils through symbolism, then you are absolutely going to love this. I think this is a very, very good resource, especially for symbolism and for those who are interested in creating magical and meaningful symbolism. So Sigil Witchery, absolutely highly recommend it. Very, very informative, workbook style. You'll love it. You'll get a lot out of it. Next, we have one of my most recommended books, especially when I'm in the midst of a spirit work session, because let's face it, I feel like my purpose in life sometimes throughout my spirit work sessions is to connect people to their ancestors, to spirit, full stop. So I have here Honoring the Ancestors, A Guide to Ancestral Veneration by Mallory Verduzzi. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Sorry about that if I've butchered it. But this is such a great reference book, a great instructional, simple, approachable, easy to understand, very digestible manual on how to work with your ancestors. We start off with who are your ancestors? And then my favorite chapter, right in the beginning, chapter 2, Healing Ancestral Trauma. There is such a wealth of information in this book laid out in the most simplest of forms. Spiritual hygiene, very, very necessary. I'm big on metaphysical maintenance, so people who know me know this. Mediumship is for everyone, so this is debunking the fact that a lot of times, I guess, spiritualism or spiritism, mediumship, channeling, all these types of beautiful psychic abilities are considered exclusive, and I do believe that with work and development anybody can tap into their psychic centers. This is something that I wholly and solely believe, so I'm very down with that. I'm going deeper with mediumship, so this really covers a lot of information for those that are really quite interested in developing their mediumship abilities by connecting with their ancestors. Now, as an ancestral practitioner, I can honestly say that by connecting with your ancestors, you create beautiful buffers for within the context of spirit work that can aid you and protect you and guide you. Of course, when you connect with your spiritual ancestry, with your ancestors, ancestral trauma is a very real thing and it needs to be addressed, which is why I think it's lovely that that subject is in chapter 2. We get straight into it because it is fundamental to the practice, and I just loved the way that the book was laid out. I love the style that it was written in, and it does come from an Odisha perspective, I suppose, so I guess I resonated with it from that perspective because it does mirror my roots. She practices a very, I guess, similar practice to my traditional roots practice, but she's based in America, and Umbanda specifically is very Brazilian based. It's very native to Brazil. Right, so this next book, The Encyclopedia of Plants in Myth, Legend, Magic and Lore, hardcover baby, cost an arm and a leg, and I'm so glad that I got it. I must say, I'm a big fan of the Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. As you can see, this is the most trashed book in my collection. I don't have another book that looks like this, that is as dirty as this. This has been with me for well over, ooh, I want to say it's been with me for over 20 years, and it actually has. Yes, it has been with me for over 20 years. I am delighted, however, that the Witch's Moon provided a hard copy version of the Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs, which means that I can now fully trash this one. Not that I would intend to do that to any book, but I don't feel so precious about it anymore. Not that I could. Nevertheless, this is such a great layout for a book. Little, you know, images, and you have the botanical name, the folk name, the gender, the planet, the element, the power, the magical use, and I really loved that layout. And so I've been looking for a richer reference book in keeping with that, and I found this one. And we have here, for instance, oh, excuse me, American Adder's Tongue, botanical name, family, common names, gender, plant, element, and then a bit about the plant itself. There is a lot of information crammed in here. Obviously, depending on the botanical, you will have more information as opposed to some other botanicals, but it really depends. Nevertheless, there is a great arrangement of, like, Hebane, look at that, myth, legend, magic, lore, medicinal, St. John's wort, which we all know is like one of those healy ones, whatever that means. Oh, I can't even turn the page. Look at that. Look at the information with St. John's wort. So some plants have more, some plants have less, depending. Hyssop, holly, sometimes we have illustrations, and they're full color illustrations, which I quite like, as opposed to the sketches that you see in other books. But a lot of rich information here for those interested in working with plants, medicine, and magic. And I think that when it comes to plant magic specifically, or green witchcraft, and the use of plants or botanicals, I should say, within the craft, their healing properties in many cases correlate to their magical properties. So if you find the healing properties of a plant, then likelihood you can attach that to a magical property in alignment with its healing potential. So it's a very, very good resource for that. It's encyclopedic in format. It's a sturdy, solid book. Nice hardback kind of bizzo, and I really quite enjoy it. There is a bumblebee beside me. It's delightful. It's making a nice little buzzing sound. Well, my beautiful souls, I hope you have enjoyed this video of me sharing some really lovely resources with you. Of course, these are not the only books that explore such topics as presented within this video. However, these are some of the books that I have found that I have rather enjoyed, have rather gravitated towards, and therefore have recommended to friends, family, and clients. So I decided that I would make a video on these recommendations and share them with you in case you found some form of benefit within them. In the meantime, thank you so much for checking in. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your support. If you have enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Share it around if that's something that you choose to do. Engage in the comments because I love to have conversations with you guys, and I will check in with you again soon. Much love and many blessings. Mwah! Bye!